These color bars are provided as a reference for you to adjust your playback system, ensuring maximum picture quality. Please adjust your sets now. San Francisco is well known for its many recognizable landmarks. Its beauty has been seen in numerous movies, television series, and photographs. It has also become a city well known to the photographic community. There seems to be a growing number of highly talented photographers in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are fashion photographers, still life, advertising, portrait, and many others. This tape will introduce several different areas of interest which are available in photography. We begin this volume by meeting one of the city's top fashion photographers, Marcy Malloy. Marcy discusses today's shoot with her assistant, Alan. Working with children's catalogs is one of Marcy's favorite types of photography.
Ready, up and at 'em. 1, 2, 3, take off your jacket. Let's go. Put that hat down. You better put it under something. It'll blow away. Put your jacket on top of it. Okay, ready? Action! Come on, studio, get up there. Get up there. Get up. What's that thing? Okay, move over, studio. Move over. All right, there you go. You're a movie star, studio. You're on TV like MC Hammer.
If somebody were interested in being a photographer or a fashion photographer, what I would tell them is first kind of see if they really liked it before investing a lot of time and money. And maybe they could be an apprentice. Maybe they could make some kind of a connection. You never know until you talk to people. Maybe a friend of Aunt Mary's might know a photographer in New York, and they could call and say, would you mind if I came to your studio? You know, I think if they could just get a foot in the door and see it, although then they might think it's too glamorous, you know. But anyway, kind of do a little research. If they could go around to see some studios, that might be good. Secondly, assisting is the obvious thing. I think it's hard to get a job as an assistant sometimes without any experience, but if they have a nice personality and if they're a pleasant person to be around, for me, that's the big thing. You know, if somebody comes and wants to be an assistant, if I don't like their energy, I don't want them in my studio. So if they have a nice personality, maybe they could get a job as an assistant with no pay, as some kind of an internship. That would be good, to see if they liked it. Then I think if you really like something, there's a couple of ways. I would advise somebody, go to school and learn your craft. Take some time out, take a couple years out, go and learn your craft, because you can learn it as an assistant, but I do believe it takes twice as long. Past couple of years, I've been doing a lot more shooting on the street, shooting on location. I shoot at beaches and parks and airports. I shoot in hotels, and it's fun. And it's a little more work than shooting in the studio, because you have to schlep everything out and back, and your equipment takes a beating. But we enjoy it, my crew and I enjoy shooting on location a lot. It's a lot of variety, and we eat at a lot of different restaurants all the time. I love working with people. I'm a real people person. I mean, I was a flight attendant for 5 years because I enjoyed it. I loved the people, but it got too boring after a while. I love the people. I love the lack of monotony. You know, I also did some time as a secretary just to make a living, and I couldn't stand it. I like running my own business. I like being independent. I never knew that that's what being a photographer meant, that you ran your own business. And of course, some photographers don't run their own businesses, but I like that aspect of it very much.
Several times each year, a group of faculty members at Brooks Institute meet with students to discuss the many types of careers which are available in photography. Brooks instructor Ralph Clevenger talks about stock photography.
In terms of stock photography, the misnomer there is that it is a type of photography. It's not. It's a type of market. Stock the term is used the same as a warehouse would use stock. In other words, it's images that have already been produced and you want to resell them, hopefully more than once. In the past, it's been an offshoot of assignment photography, but today, in the last few years, and it's going to continue to change, many photographers are finding that they can make their entire income from just stock photography. And it is even more difficult than assignment photography because it's very much self-motivated. You're generally self-employed and have to handle all the business aspects as well as the photography aspects.
In the advertising area, if that's of interest to you, the things that you see in magazines and sometimes in television commercials is a kind of thing that we are kind of concerned about. That seems pretty glamorous, advertising photography and doing great ads and things like this, but there are some drawbacks to it. One is that you're probably pretty much self-employed, and that has, that's kind of scary a lot of times. Also, you're going to find that the stronger ones survive, and that's kind of scary sometimes. And that good photographs, like all of us up here would tell you, is really, really hard work. And so if you're interested in advertising, I think you'd better also be ready to live in a large metropolitan area, and certainly larger than Santa Barbara, if you want to do that kind of thing. We're kind of concerned about consumer advertising, but there's other kinds of advertising too, and Vern touches on that, and commercial touches on that, and that is, I would say, just good general commercial photography.
I think that it takes years and years to develop a career, and you are probably going to change your mind many times, and opportunities will show itself and will develop more interests along the time. So it seems to me that you want to find out about photography and study it at this point without too much attention to what direction it's going to take you in a career.
We will resume with the career panel after we visit another San Francisco-based photographer. Steve Hathaway has built a reputation for delivering high-quality advertising work to a variety of clients. His still life photography has gained widespread attention for being as artistic as it is technically sound. Steve has recently expanded his area of interest into black and white portrait images of celebrities, although he continues to maintain his commercial advertising client base.
I got started when I was probably in college. I started taking photographs as an art student, and I wanted to find a way of making this into something more than just fun. Like all of us, photography starts out as a hobby, and I wanted to see how I could make this into a career and still make it fun. At any rate, I went to art school, and later on I went to a photography school, Brooks Institute, and I found out that I could make a career out of it. I think the most rewarding thing in photography for me is probably what it was when I first started 15 years ago, and that's literally seeing the image that I have produced appear, be it in the tray in the darkroom, or if I get the film back from the color lab. It's just wonderful to see the image as I pictured it and to have it come out just how I wanted it to come out. I think that's the most rewarding part. I don't think the business end or where I'm going really compares to that. Recently, I have changed my emphasis, and in fact, these are some of the images in front of us. I am going into more of a portrait, celebrity portrait style, black and white. I find it fascinating. I've kind of found a style that relates to the still lifes that I've been doing. They're usually with soft focus backgrounds, modeled with sharp focus on the model or the subject. And I'm finding it to be a lot of fun, and that's the whole name of the game. If it's interesting to you, I think the images come out a lot better. I think what you need is a strong base to work from. And I know that when I was younger, especially in high school, I got my first camera. It seemed like every other image was either overexposed or underexposed, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And it's not until you completely understand what you're doing with the camera that you can make the images that you want. In fact, you can make images you never thought you could make.
It's just amazing how many different types of photography there is, and that are very specific to the type of product that they're doing, whether it's a manufactured product or if they're doing research. There's support, camera support, photography support with specialties for that company. And I'm just totally surprised, even today, after all these years, that I see a new area, a new company, a new way to use photography. And the only way that you can take advantage of that is knowing photography and knowing the capabilities and being a true expert in photography. And that means know everything about photography.
Along with that idea of employment opportunities, portraiture is one of those specialties that's everywhere in the country. It's just something that you might consider, like you consider what lifestyle will I lead as a particular photographer. There's portrait studios in small cities, there's portrait studios in large cities, so you're not having to select an area of the country or a particular size of city to become a portrait photographer. Portraiture takes various, works at various levels. There's the carriage trade market, which is represented by the Cheras portraits out here in the foyer, all the way down to Sears and Penney's high volume, price sensitive markets. Portraiture is that kind of thing which just by its nature, just by the way the market is segmented. There's some portraitists that will serve a $9.95 market, there's others that will serve a $2,000 market. So it covers a vast range.
Audiovisual is much like motion picture in terms that it is a production process. It's not a type of photography or a style. It's more of a production process. It's almost always done in a team effort. It requires sound recording people, set designers, directors, a lot of other individuals involved other than the photographers. The photographer is only one part of the team. Most of us are somewhat familiar with motion picture and how it works, and audiovisual or multi-image photography is very similar.
Louis Preslin has worked as a cinematographer with the Cousteau Society for many years. His work has been enjoyed by millions of people worldwide. Recently, at his home in California, Louis shared his insight into the unique world of filmmaking.
I got started in this field quite a while ago, but it was sort of accidental. I was at the time a diver for the Cousteau Society, for the Cousteau expeditions. And the purpose of those expeditions was to make television shows. The name at the time was The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. And I became quite interested in seeing how the film team was shooting, and I became extremely fascinated by this field, which was totally unknown to me. At the time, I could hardly handle an Instamatic. And the cameramen were very patient and started showing me how it's done and giving me all kinds of advice. And eventually, I became an in-house assistant cameraman. I progressed up to a point, and then eventually, there was definitely a need for me to go and study in a more formal way so that I could put this whole field into perspective. And that is when I came to the Brooks Institute and went through the motion picture course. I went through a motion picture with Rex Fleming and Steve Bradfield, and under their guidance I had a chance to expand my knowledge of not only filming in the field, but all aspects of the field involving scripting a story, telling the story, editing, and so on. Basically, after I left school, I started freelancing, and I'm technically freelancing. I worked with several companies ranging from ABC Sports, did some work for National Geographic, did some work with other productions in topics ranging from scientific films, industrial films, to Sesame Street. And eventually, when the Cousteau Society started the Amazon project, this large project, I started working with the Cousteau Society again and spent about 2 years in the Amazon. And from that time on, I've been working almost exclusively for the Society. In terms of what it is like to do this type of work, there is a bit of a misconception coming from what you see on screen. Usually when you watch such a program, you see attractive images, beautiful scenery, everything is working fine, and most people don't realize the enormous amount of work that goes behind the making of such films. It is not unusual to try sometimes for weeks and weeks to get a given sequence, and eventually it does not work out. It could be a technical problem, it could be a weather problem, and it does take a tremendous amount of patience and dedication. I've been in circumstances sometimes where we had worked on a project for about 5 weeks, and eventually, almost on the last day we could afford, things started working out. So very often the successful cinematographer in that field is the one who hangs on and is the most perseverant. Basic advice to give to someone who might consider this field. To me, the most important thing is dedication. Dedication which involves a lot of perseverance. You have to be strong enough to take difficult situations. Sometimes you may run into a lot of difficulties, whether in the process of selling yourself to get yourself into a project, or later on, once you're in a project, the challenge of coming back with good images. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So the successful ones are usually the ones who want it more than the others and have a bit more patience and dedication than the others.
I have an opinion about that, and I think it's a general opinion about photography. Capitalizing on what Bob said, I think it'd be a whole lot easier as a photographer to have a family than a lot of other careers. To be an astronaut and have a family. Kind of tough. But one of the neat things about photography, I think you'll learn while you're here, is along the lines of that contradiction we just had of is it better to specialize or generalize? You're going to go through a whole career of photography, and it never has to be the same year to year. It's pretty exciting. You can get involved immediately out of school working for a color lab, and then go work as an advertising consultant for a company, and then develop your own studio, and then end up teaching at Brooks. You can change your lifestyle pretty incredibly.